when Elon Musk's Tesla factory became the unlikely meeting place between a tech billionaire and a 99-year-old grandmother looking for her grandson, neither expected their 10-minute conversation to change everything. But Dorothy Martinez had been married for 78 years before her husband died last month, and she had wisdom about love that could transform even the most driven man on Earth. What she told him in those brief moments would haunt Elon for days, send him on a 200-mile journey to her small San Antonio home, and ultimately teach him the secret that had kept her marriage strong for nearly 8 decades. Sometimes the hardest problems in life need the oldest solutions, and sometimes a stranger's gentle words can show you exactly what you've been missing. The smell of hot metal and burning rubber filled Elon Musk's nose as he walked fast through the Tesla Gigafactory in Austin. His sneakers squeaked on the shiny floor. Workers in blue uniforms moved around him like busy ants. The sound of machines hummed loud in his ears. Elon looked at his phone. 3 missed calls from his assistant, 2 angry emails about Twitter problems, 1 text from his mom asking if he was eating enough. He shoved the phone back in his pocket and kept walking. "Mr. Musk." A man in a hard hat jogged up to him. "The battery line is running slow again. We're behind by 2 hours." Elon stopped walking. His jaw got tight. "How far behind for the week?" "Maybe 40 cars, sir." "Fix it," he said. "I don't care what it costs." The man nodded and hurried away. Elon kept walking toward the assembly line. His mind raced with problems. The new rocket design wasn't working right. His ex-girlfriend Grimes had posted something mean about him online. The newspapers were writing bad stories about his companies again. Sometimes he felt like he was trying to hold up the whole world by himself. "Excuse me, young man." Elon turned around. A tiny old woman stood behind him. She had silver hair pulled back in a neat bun. Her dark eyes sparkled behind wire glasses. She wore a simple blue dress and comfortable shoes. A small black purse hung from her arm. "Yes?" Elon said, trying to sound nice even though he was stressed. "I'm looking for my grandson, Miguel Martinez. He works here somewhere. Can you help me find him?" Elon looked at her more carefully. She was maybe 5 feet tall and very thin. Her skin was brown and wrinkled like a walnut. But her smile was warm and kind. She looked at him like he was just a regular person, not the richest man in the world. "Miguel Martinez," Elon said slowly. "I think he works on the battery line. That's where I was going." "Oh, good." The woman clapped her small hands together. "Would you mind showing me the way? These old legs don't move as fast as they used to." "Sure," he said. "Follow me." They walked together through the factory. The old woman moved slowly, but steady. She looked around at everything with curious eyes. "This is quite a place," she said, raising her voice over the machine noise. "Miguel told me it was big, but I didn't picture this." "It's pretty impressive," Elon agreed. "We make about 1,000 cars a day here." 1,000. She shook her head in wonder. "When I was young, most people didn't even own a car. Now you make 1,000 every day. Times change fast." Elon said, "Yes, they do. But some things stay the same." "Like what?" The woman smiled up at him. "People still need love. They still need family. They still need someone to care about them." Elon felt something twist in his chest. When was the last time someone had really cared about him? Not his money or his companies or his fame. Just him. They reached the battery assembly area. Workers in safety glasses moved car batteries along a moving belt. The batteries were heavy and had to be handled with care. "Miguel," the old woman called out. A young man with dark hair looked up from his workstation. His face broke into a huge smile when he saw her. "Abuela Dot." He pulled off his safety gloves and ran over to hug her. "What are you doing here?" "I told you I'd pick you up at 4. "I got tired of waiting in that hotel room," Dot said, hugging him tight. "I wanted to see where my grandson works." Miguel looked over Dot's shoulder and saw Elon standing there. His eyes got wide. "Mr. Musk, I'm so sorry. My grandmother didn't know." "It's fine," Elon said quickly. "She was just looking for you." Dot turned back to Elon. "Thank you for helping me, Micho. You're very kind." "Abuela," Miguel said in a low voice, "that's Elon Musk. He owns this whole company." Dot's eyebrows went up, but she didn't look scared or starstruck like most people did. She just nodded like she was meeting any regular person. "Well then, Mr. Musk, she said, thank you even more for taking time to help an old woman find her grandson. It was no problem, Elon said, and he meant it. For some reason, walking with this grandmother had been the calmest 10 minutes of his whole stressful week. Abuela is visiting from San Antonio, Miguel explained. She's 99 years old. 99! Elon stared at Dot with new respect. You look much younger. Dot laughed. A sound like silver bells. Good genes and hard work. Mijo. Plus I had 78 years of marriage to keep me happy. 78 years? Elon couldn't believe it. You were married for 78 years? See, my Carlos passed last month. Dot's smile got a little sad. We would have celebrated our 79th anniversary in June. Elon felt his throat get tight. He tried to imagine loving someone for almost 80 years. He couldn't even keep a relationship going for 2 years. I'm sorry for your loss, he said softly. Thank you, Mijo. He was a good man. The best man. 2 security guards in black suits walked up to them. One whispered something in Elon's ear about his next meeting. I have to go, Elon said, feeling sorry to leave. Dot reached out and patted his arm gently. Her hand was small and warm. You look troubled, Mijo. Sometimes the hardest problems need the oldest solutions. Elon stared down at her. What do you mean? But the security guards were already leading him away. He looked back over his shoulder and saw Dot talking with Miguel, her face bright with love for her grandson. All through his next meeting about rocket engines, Elon couldn't stop thinking about the tiny grandmother. Her words kept playing in his head. Sometimes the hardest problems need the oldest solutions. What had she meant by that? And why couldn't he stop wondering? Elon sat in his office high above the factory floor. Through the big windows he could see workers going home for the day. The sun was setting over Austin, painting the sky orange and pink. But he wasn't looking at the pretty sunset. He was thinking about a tiny grandmother with silver hair. Sometimes the hardest problems need the oldest solutions. What did that even mean? Elon had built rocket ships and electric cars. He had started companies that changed the world. But he couldn't figure out what one old woman was trying to tell him. His phone buzzed. A text from his assistant. Your 6 p.m. meeting is waiting. Elon sighed and stood up. Another meeting. Another problem to solve. Another day of feeling like he was running on a treadmill that never stopped. The meeting was about new charging stations for Tesla cars. Important stuff. But Elon's mind kept drifting. He kept thinking about how Dot had looked at him, not like he was famous or rich, just like he was a person who needed help finding someone he cared about. When was the last time someone had looked at him that way? After the meeting, Elon walked back to his office. The building was quiet now. Most workers had gone home to their families, home to people who cared about them. Home to dinner and hugs and bedtime stories. Elon's house was big and expensive, but it felt empty most nights. He usually worked until midnight, then fell asleep watching space documentaries on his couch. He pulled out his phone and called his head of security, James. James, I need you to find someone for me. Of course, sir. Who? An old woman named Dorothy Martinez. She goes by Dot. Her grandson Miguel works on the battery line at the factory. James was quiet for a second. Is there a problem, Mr. Musk? No problem, I want to talk to her again. I'll get right on it, sir. While he waited, Elon thought about his last relationship with Grimes. They had dated for 3 years, but it never felt easy. She said he worked too much. He said she didn't understand how important his work was. They fought about time and attention and whether saving the world was worth missing dinner dates. Maybe you're just not built for love, his brother Kimball had said over lunch last week. Some people are meant to change the world. Others are meant to have families. You can't do both. But Dot Martinez had been married for 78 years. How was that even possible? His phone rang. James calling back. Found her, sir. Dorothy Elena Martinez, age 99. Lives at 147 Ruiz Street in San Antonio. West Side neighborhood. Been there for 43 years. What else? Widowed last month. Husband was Carlos Martinez. Died at age 101. They had 6 children together. Dot worked as a seamstress at Kelly Air Force Base during World War II. That's where she met her husband. Elon felt his heart speed up. a seamstress during World War II. A love story that started in the 1940s and lasted almost 80 years. What secrets did this woman know about love that he didn't? "Sir?" James's voice brought him back. "Do you want me to arrange a meeting?" Elon looked at his calendar on his computer screen. Tomorrow he had meetings from 7 in the morning until 9 at night. The day after was even busier. But something inside him was pulling towards San Antonio like a magnet. "No," he said. "I'll handle this myself." "Sir, you can't just drive to San Antonio alone. Security." "James, I'm going to visit a 99-year-old grandmother. I think I'll be safe." After he hung up, Elon sat back in his chair. His mother May had been calling him more often lately. She worried about him working too much and not eating right. Last week she had said something that stuck with him. "Elon, you're changing the world, but are you living in it?" Elon looked up San Antonio on his computer. It was about 3 hours south of Austin. He could drive there tomorrow after his morning meetings and be back by midnight. Or maybe he wouldn't come back right away. When had he last taken a day off? Really off, not working from a different location or answering emails on vacation. When had he last done something just because he wanted to, not because it would help his companies? He couldn't remember. Elon picked up his phone and called his assistant. "Cancel my meetings tomorrow afternoon," he said. "Sir? All of them? You have the board presentation and the... Move them. Cancel them. I don't care. I need tomorrow afternoon." "May I ask why?" Elon looked out his window at the dark Texas sky. Somewhere out there, beyond the stars he wanted to reach, a wise old woman was probably getting ready for bed. Maybe she was looking at pictures of her husband. Maybe she was missing him. Maybe she was wondering if the troubled young man she met today would figure out what she was trying to tell him. "I'm going to visit a friend," he said. James met him at the car, looking worried. "Sir, I really think you should take security with you. To visit a grandmother? You're one of the richest people in the world." "There are risks, James." Elon put his hand on the man's shoulder. "Sometimes you have to take risks to find what you're looking for." He got in the car and started the engine. The GPS said San Antonio was 2 hours and 57 minutes away. As he drove south on Interstate 35, Elon felt something he hadn't felt in months. He felt curious about what would happen next. The drive was peaceful. No meetings. No phone calls. Just him and the open road and the Texas sky, stretching wide and blue above him. He passed small towns with funny names like Buda and Kyle. He saw fields of wildflowers and old barns and cattle standing in the shade. For the first time in years, Elon wasn't thinking about Mars or electric cars or saving the world. He was just driving to meet an old woman who might have answers to questions he didn't even know he was asking. As he took the exit for San Antonio's west side, his heart started beating faster. What if she didn't want to see him? What if he was being crazy, driving 3 hours to talk to someone he'd met for 10 minutes? But then he remembered her warm hand on his arm, her kind eyes behind wire glasses, her words that had been stuck in his head for 24 hours. Sometimes the hardest problems need the oldest solutions. Maybe she was right. Maybe the solution to his loneliness wasn't working harder or making more money or reaching Mars faster. Maybe the solution was as old as love itself. Elon turned onto Ruiz Street and started looking for house numbers. 2043, 1245. And then there it was, 2047 Ruiz Street. A small house with white walls and a red tile roof. A tiny front yard with a garden full of vegetables and bright flowers. And there, kneeling next to some tomato plants with a watering can in her hand, was Dot Martinez. She looked up as his car pulled into the driveway. A smile spread across her wrinkled face like sunrise. She had been expecting him. Dot Martinez stood up slowly from her tomato plants. She wiped her hands on a small towel tucked into her belt. Her smile was warm and knowing, like she had been waiting for this moment all day. "Well, hello there, Misho," she said, walking toward his car. "I wondered when you might come by." Elon sat in his Tesla for a moment, surprised. He had driven 3 hours without calling first. How could she have known he was coming? Elon looked around the small front yard. Red and yellow flowers bloomed next to neat rows of vegetables. Tomatoes hung heavy on their vines. Green beans climbed up wooden poles. Everything was carefully tended and loved. "Your garden is beautiful," he said. Thank you. Carlos and I planted it together 40 years ago. I keep it going for him now. She looked at the plants with soft eyes. He always said a garden teaches you about time. Some things grow fast, some things take years. But everything needs daily care. I can't stop thinking about it. Good. That means you're ready to listen. She gestured toward the backyard. Come on. Let's sit in the shade and talk properly. Sit, Dot said, pointing to one of the chairs. I'll get us something to drink. She disappeared into the house. Elon sat down and looked around. Everything here felt peaceful. No rushing, no deadlines, no phone calls or meetings or problems to solve. Just the sound of birds and the smell of growing things. Dot came back with 2 glasses of iced tea and a plate of cookies. Miguel tells me you work very hard, she said, settling into her chair. Too hard, maybe. I have to work hard. I'm trying to get humans to Mars. I'm trying to save the planet with electric cars. These things don't happen by accident. No, they don't. Dot sipped her tea slowly. But tell me something, Misho. When you get to Mars, will you go alone? The question caught Elon off guard. No, of course not. We'll send crews. Teams of people. And when you save the planet, will you be the only person left on it? No, that's the whole point. I'm trying to save everyone. Dot nodded. So your work is about people, about helping people, about making life better for people. Yes. Then why are you doing it without people? Elon set down his glass. What do you mean? I mean, when was the last time you had dinner with someone you love? When was the last time you sat somewhere peaceful like this and just talked? When was the last time you let someone take care of you instead of you taking care of the whole world? Elon felt something tight in his chest. I don't have time. They sat quietly for a moment. A butterfly landed on the flowers near Dot's chair. She watched it with gentle attention. My Carlos worked hard too, she said finally. After the war, he got a job at the post office. Then he started his own business fixing cars. He worked 6 days a week, sometimes 7. He wanted to provide for our family. That sounds familiar, Elon said. One day, I was so tired of eating dinner alone. The children were grown and gone. Carlos was always at the shop. I made his favorite meal, chicken mole that takes all day to cook. I set the table with our wedding dishes. I waited and waited. Did he come home? At midnight. Cold food, cold house, cold wife. Dot's eyes got distant. I was ready to leave him. I had my suitcase packed and everything. Elon leaned forward. What stopped you? He found me crying in the kitchen. And you know what he did? He sat down and ate that cold dinner like it was the best meal of his life. Then he said, Dot, I'm working so hard to give you a good life that I forgot to live it with you. What happened then? He changed. Not everything, not right away. But he started coming home for lunch twice a week. He started taking Sundays off. He started asking me about my day and really listening to the answer. Dot reached over and picked up Elon's hand. Her fingers were small and warm and gentle. Mijo, you're working so hard to save humanity that you're forgetting to be human yourself. The words hit Elon like a rocket engine firing. He felt tears start in his eyes. But my work is important, he said quietly. If I don't push hard, if I don't sacrifice everything, who will get us to Mars? Who will stop climate change? Maybe, Dot said softly, the person who will help you do those things. Maybe the person who will make you stronger, not weaker. Maybe the person who will remind you why those things matter. She let go of his hand and stood up. She walked to her tomato plants and gently touched one of the red fruits. These tomatoes don't grow because I ignore them, she said. They grow because I water them every day. I talk to them. I worry about them when it gets too hot or too cold. Love isn't something that takes time away from important work, Majo. Love is what makes the work important. Elon watched her tend to her plants. There was something magical about the way she moved among them, like she was dancing with old friends. Mrs. Martinez, Dot, can I ask you something personal? Of course. How did you and Carlos stay married for 78 years? Really? What's the secret? Dot smiled and sat back down. She looked at him with eyes full of ancient wisdom. Are you sure you want to know? Because once I tell you, you can't unknow it. And it might change everything about how you think about love. Elon's heart started beating faster. Yes. I need to know. Dot nodded slowly. Then let me tell you about the night Carlos almost died, and what I learned about love that changed everything. She paused and looked up at the darkening sky. The first stars were beginning to appear. But first, are you hungry? Real food, not just cookies. Because this is a story that needs a proper meal to go with it. Elon realized he hadn't eaten since breakfast. His stomach rumbled softly. I don't want to be any trouble. Trouble? Dot stood up and brushed dirt off her hands. Mijo, feeding people is what I do. It's what I've always done. Come inside and let me show you something while I cook. Elon followed her through the back door into a small kitchen. The room smelled like cinnamon and coffee. Old wooden cabinets lined the walls. A round table with 4 chairs sat by the window. Everything was clean and simple and homey. Sit there, Dot said, pointing to a chair that faced the living room. I want you to see. From where he sat, Elon could look into the next room. The walls were covered with photographs, hundreds of them. Black and white pictures from long ago. Color photos from more recent years. Pictures of babies and weddings and birthday parties and graduations. 78 years of life, Dot said, taking ingredients from the refrigerator. 6 children, 18 grandchildren, 12 great-grandchildren. Every important moment is on those walls. Elon stared at the photos. In the center was a large picture of a young couple on their wedding day. The man wore a military uniform. The woman wore a simple white dress and held flowers. Both were smiling like they had just discovered the most wonderful secret in the world. 1946, Dot said, stirring something in a pot. He had just come back from the war. I was 21. He was 23. We thought we knew everything about love. She laughed softly. We knew nothing. But you stayed together. Oh, we almost didn't, twice. Dot opened a cabinet and pulled out a wooden box. Come here. I want to show you something. Elon walked over to where she stood. The wooden box was old and worn smooth by many hands. Dot opened it carefully. Inside were letters tied with faded ribbons. Dozens of them. Carlos wrote me a letter every day when he was in Korea, she said, touching the letters gently. Even when he was scared. Even when he was sick. Even when he didn't know if he would come home. She pulled out one letter and unfolded it carefully. The paper was yellow and fragile. Listen to this, she said, and began to read. My dearest Dot, today I saw a sunset that reminded me of your hair in the morning light. I know that sounds silly, but everything here reminds me of you. The coffee tastes like the coffee we shared on our first date. The stars look like the ones we wished on in your mother's backyard. The Dot paused and looked at Elon. He was in the middle of a war, Mijo. People were dying around him. But he took time every day to write me a love letter. That's beautiful, Elon said softly. Elon felt something break open in his chest. When was the last time he had noticed a small moment? When was the last time he had hummed because he was happy? Dot folded the letter and put it back in the box. That was our first secret, Mijo. We learned to treasure the small moments. 5 minutes of morning coffee together. 10 minutes of talking before bed. A quick kiss when he came home from work. But that seems so simple, Elon said. The best secrets usually are. Dot went back to her cooking. Carlos would leave little notes in my lunchbox when I worked at the airplane base. Just silly things. Your smile is my favorite part of every day. Or thank you for loving me even when I snore. She stirred the pot and tasted the sauce. I kept every note. They're in that box too. Elon looked at the wooden box with new understanding. It wasn't just old letters. It was proof that love could survive anything if you fed it every single day with small acts of kindness. What happened when he came back from Korea? Elon asked. Dot's face got serious. That's when we learned our second secret. And it almost broke us apart. She set down her spoon and walked to the window. Outside, the sun was setting behind the neighbor's house. The sky was painted in shades of orange and pink. Carlos came home different, she said quietly. The war had hurt him inside, in places I couldn't see. He had nightmares. He jumped at loud noises. Sometimes he would disappear for hours and come back smelling like whiskey. That must have been hard. I was so angry at him. I thought love should be enough to heal him. I thought if I just loved him hard enough, He would go back to being the man who wrote me beautiful letters. Dot turned away from the window and looked at Elon directly. But that's not how love works, is it? Love isn't a magic cure. Love is choosing to walk through the hard times together, even when you don't know the way. She went back to the stove and began making tortillas by hand. Her fingers worked the dough like she had done it 10,000 times before. One night, Carlos was having a bad nightmare. He was shouting and thrashing around. I tried to wake him up, and he pushed me away. Hard. I fell and hit my head on the dresser. Not on purpose. When he woke up and saw what happened, he cried like a baby. He wanted to leave me. He said he was dangerous. He said I deserved better. What did you do? Dot smiled sadly. I told him the truth. I said, Carlos Martinez, I didn't fall in love with a perfect man. I fell in love with your man. Your goodness, your struggles, your scars and all. We're going to figure this out together, or we're not going to figure it out at all. The kitchen filled with the smell of warm tortillas and simmering sauce. Elon watched Dot cook with the same gentle attention she gave her garden. Everything she did was an act of love. Did it work? He asked. It took 3 years, Dot said, flipping a tortilla. 3 years of him going to meetings with other soldiers who had the same nightmares. 3 years of me learning that loving someone means accepting their wounds as well as their gifts. She put the tortilla on a plate and started another one. But here's what we discovered. Mijo. When you love someone through their hardest times, really love them, not just wait for them to get better, something magical happens. What? Dot looked at him with eyes full of ancient wisdom. You become strong enough to face your own hard times. Because you know what real love looks like. You know it doesn't run away when things get difficult. Elon thought about his past relationships. How he had worked longer hours when problems came up. How he had bought expensive gifts instead of talking about feelings. How he had blamed his schedule instead of examining his heart. I've never learned how to love someone through hard times, he admitted quietly. That's because you've never let anyone love you through yours, Dot said gently. You try to be perfect all the time. You think if people see your struggles, they'll leave. She was right. Elon had spent his whole life trying to be impressive instead of trying to be real. As they began to eat, Dot folded her hands and looked at Elon seriously. I told you we almost divorced twice. The war nightmares were the first time. The second time was much worse. And that's when we learned the secret that saved our marriage and changed everything we thought we knew about love. She took a sip of water and continued. But I can't tell you that story here in the kitchen. For that story, you need to see our bedroom. You need to see where Carlos spent his last days. You need to understand what he taught me about love and loss and why they're not opposites. Dot stood up slowly. There's something about love and loss I need to tell you. But first, are you hungry? Let me make you dinner like I did for my Carlos. She paused and looked out the window where the last light was fading from the sky. Because the story I'm about to tell you will change everything you believe about what love really means. Dot served the food with the same careful attention she gave her garden. The chicken was tender and rich with spices. The beans were creamy and warm. The tortillas were soft and fresh. But Elon could barely taste any of it. His mind was racing with questions about the story she was about to tell. This is delicious, he said, trying to be polite. My mother's recipe, Dot replied, taking small bites. She taught me that food made with love tastes different than food made in a hurry. They ate quietly for a few minutes. Through the kitchen window, Elon could see lights coming on in the neighbors' houses. Families sitting down to dinner together. Children doing homework at kitchen tables. Normal people living normal lives. Dot, he said finally. You mentioned you and Carlos almost divorced twice. What was the second time? Dot set down her fork and folded her hands. 1975. We had been married 29 years. Our youngest son Tommy was 19 and home from his first year of college. She paused and looked out the window. Tommy was our wild child, always getting into trouble, always pushing limits. Carlos and I disagreed about how to handle him. What kind of trouble? Drinking, fighting, staying out all night. Carlos wanted to be tough with him. I wanted to be understanding. Dot's voice got soft. We fought about Tommy every day. Big fights. The kind where you say things you can't take back. Elon thought about his own relationship with his father. The arguments, the disappointed looks, the feeling that nothing he did was ever good enough. One night in June, Dot continued, Tommy came home drunk again. Carlos was waiting up for him. They got into a huge fight in the living room, yelling and screaming. Tommy said terrible things. He told Carlos he hated him. He said he couldn't wait to leave and never come back. What did Carlos do? He told Tommy to get out. Right then, he said if Tommy wanted to act like he didn't have a family, then he didn't have a family. Dot's eyes filled with tears. Tommy left that night, and he didn't come back. How long was he gone? 3 years. The words came out like a whisper. 3 years of not knowing where he was, not knowing if he was safe, not knowing if we would ever see him again. Elon felt his chest get tight.
That must have been horrible.
It nearly destroyed us. Carlos blamed himself. I blamed Carlos. We stopped talking except to fight. We stopped eating meals together. We slept in separate bedrooms. Dot wiped her eyes with her napkin. I packed my suitcase 3 different times. I had divorce papers drawn up by a lawyer. I was ready to leave. What stopped you? Something happened that changed everything I thought I knew about love and marriage and forgiveness. She stood up and walked to the refrigerator. On the door was an old photo held up by a magnet. She took it down and handed it to Elon. The photo showed a young man in military uniform. He had dark hair and serious eyes. He looked like he was trying to be brave. Tommy. Dot said simply. This was taken right before he left for Vietnam. Elon stared at the photo. He went to Vietnam? In 1978. He joined the army to prove something to his father. To prove he wasn't a coward or a failure. Dot sat back down heavily. We got the news on a Tuesday morning in March. Elon's heart started racing. What news? Tommy was missing in action. His unit had been attacked. 3 soldiers were killed. 2 were captured. Tommy was just gone. The kitchen became very quiet. Elon could hear the clock ticking on the wall. He could hear his own breathing. For 6 months, Dot said slowly, we didn't know if he was alive or dead. 6 months of waiting by the phone. 6 months of jumping every time someone knocked on the door. 6 months of hoping and praying and going crazy with worry. That's unimaginable. Elon said softly. You know what happened during those 6 months? Carlos and I stopped fighting about whose fault it was. We stopped blaming each other. We held each other and cried. We took turns being strong when the other one couldn't be. We remembered that we were on the same team. Dot touched the photo gently. Love isn't just for the good times, Meisho. Real love shows up when everything is falling apart. When you're scared and angry and don't know what to do, that's when you find out what love really means. Did Tommy come home? In September, he was found in a prison camp. 30 pounds thinner, hurt in ways that took years to heal. But alive. She put the photo back on the refrigerator. The day he came home, Carlos broke down and cried. He begged Tommy to forgive him for that night. He said he had been carrying that guilt for 3 years. What did Tommy say? He said, Dad, we both made mistakes. But I learned something over there. Life is too short to waste time on old anger. I love you. That's all that matters now. Dot sat back down and looked directly at Elon. That's when Carlos and I learned our most important secret about marriage. What was it? Love isn't about avoiding problems or pretending everything is perfect. Love is about choosing to face the problems together. It's about forgiving each other when you mess up. It's about remembering that you're partners, not enemies. Elon thought about all his past relationships. How he had worked longer hours when problems came up. How he had bought expensive gifts instead of talking about feelings. How he had blamed his partners for not understanding his mission, instead of trying to understand theirs. I've never learned how to fight with someone I love, he said quietly. When things get hard, I just disappear into my work. That's because you're afraid of conflict, Dot said gently. You think if you disagree with someone, they'll leave. So you try to avoid all the messy parts of love. She was right. Elon had spent his whole life trying to be perfect instead of trying to be real. But here's what Carlos and I discovered, Dot continued. When you learn to fight fair with someone, when you learn to disagree without attacking, when you learn to say, I'm sorry, and mean it, That's when love gets stronger. How do you fight fair? You fight about the problem, not about the person. You listen as much as you talk. You remember that you both want the same thing, to love each other well. What happened to Tommy? He got married 5 years later, had 3 beautiful children, became a teacher. He and Carlos became best friends before Carlos died. Dot smiled through her tears. Sometimes the hardest times lead to the most beautiful endings. You know what the really amazing thing was? She asked. What? Going through that crisis with Carlos made me love him more, not less. Seeing him cry over our son, seeing him fight his own pride to apologize, seeing him choose our family over being right. That showed me who he really was inside. Elon felt something shift in his chest. I've never let anyone see me cry. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Dot squeezed his hand gently. Are you ready for the last part of the story? She asked. The part about Carlos's final days and what he taught me about love and loss? Dot stood up slowly and walked toward the hallway. Then come with me. I need to show you our bedroom. I need to show you where Carlos spent his last month. Because what happened there will change everything you think you know about forever. She paused at the edge of the hallway and looked back at him. But I have to warn you, this part of the story is going to make you cry. And it's going to make you want to call someone you love right now and tell them how you feel. Elon stood up and followed her. His hands were shaking slightly. There's something else about love and loss I need to tell you, Dot said as they walked down the hall. But first, are you ready to see where real love goes to die and be reborn? At the end of the hall, Dot stopped in front of a closed door. She put her small hand on the doorknob but didn't turn it yet. This was our bedroom for 43 years, she said softly. Carlos died in there last month, in the bed where we shared our dreams and our fears and our love. The room was simple and peaceful. A double bed with a white quilt, a dresser with more family photos, 2 chairs by the window. Everything was neat and clean, but Elon could feel something heavy in the air, something sad and sacred at the same time. Sit here, Dot said, pointing to one of the chairs by the window. This is where I sat for the last month of Carlos's life. Elon sat down. Through the window, he could see the backyard garden where they had talked earlier. The tomato plants looked silver in the moonlight. Dot sat in the other chair. She looked very small and fragile in the dim light. Carlos got sick in January. She began. Cancer. The doctors said he had maybe 3 months to live. I'm so sorry, Elon said. At first, I was angry. So angry. We were supposed to have more time. We were supposed to celebrate our 79th anniversary in June. We were supposed to see our newest great-grandchild take his first steps. Dot's voice was quiet but steady. I railed against God. I railed against life. I asked why us? Why now? We had already been through so much. That sounds normal, Elon said. Anyone would be angry. But Carlos wasn't angry. That's what surprised me. He was scared, yes. He was sad about leaving me. But he wasn't angry. She pointed to the bed. He spent most of February in that bed. Too weak to get up. Too tired to eat much. But you know what he did every morning? What? He asked me to open the curtain so he could see the garden. Then he would tell me one thing he was grateful for. One thing he loved about our life together. Elon felt his throat get tight. What kind of things? The first morning he said he was grateful for the way I hummed when I made coffee. The second morning he was grateful for the time I surprised him with a picnic lunch at his work 20 years ago. The third morning he was grateful for the way I always put extra blankets on his side of the bed because I knew he got cold at night. Every single day for 2 months, little things, big things, memories from when we were young, moments from the week before. Dot wiped her eyes. I started writing them down in a notebook because I didn't want to forget. Listen to this, she said, opening to a page near the middle. March 15th. Carlos said, I'm grateful for the way you never gave up on Tommy. I'm grateful for the way you taught me that loving someone means loving their struggles too. I'm grateful for every fight we ever had because it taught us how to forgive. Elon was crying now. He couldn't help it. March 20th. Dot continued reading. I'm grateful for the way you held my hand during my nightmares. I'm grateful for the way you made this little house feel like a palace. I'm grateful for every ordinary Tuesday we spent together because ordinary days with you were the best days of my life. She closed the notebook and held it against her chest. Do you understand what he was doing, Mijo? He was showing you how much your love meant to him, Elon said through his tears. More than that, he was showing me that love doesn't end when life ends. Love becomes something bigger, something that lasts forever. Dot stood up and walked to the dresser. She picked up a framed photo of her and Carlos from their last anniversary. They looked old and tired, but they were smiling at each other like newlyweds. The night before he died, she said, Carlos could barely speak, but he squeezed my hand and whispered something in my ear. What did he say? Dot's voice became very soft. He said, Dot, you're not losing me, you're keeping me. All the love we built together, it's yours now. Take it and give it to other people. Take it and help them believe in love like we did. The room was very quiet. Elon could hear his own heartbeat. That's when I understood, Dot said, sitting back down. Grief and love aren't opposites. They're the same thing. The deeper your love, the deeper your grief. But that grief, that pain you feel when someone you love dies, that's actually love with no place to go. She looked directly at Elon. So you have to find new places for it. You have to give it away to other people who need it. Is that why you helped me at the factory? Elon asked. Is that why you're telling me all this? Partly. But there's more. Dot reached into her pocket and pulled out something small. It was an old pocket watch on a chain. This was Carlos's watch. His father gave it to him when he graduated high school. He carried it every day for 80 years. She held it out to Elon. He wanted me to give this to someone who needed to learn about love. Someone who was working so hard to save the world that he forgot to live in it. Elon stared at the watch. I can't take this. It's too important. Carlos said something else before he died. Dot continued. He said, find someone who loves like we did. Someone who thinks their work is more important than their heart. Give them this watch and tell them that time spent loving people isn't time taken away from important work. It's the reason the work matters. She pressed the watch into Elon's hand. It was warm and heavy and felt like it held decades of love. Mijo. Dot said gently, you're trying to get humans to Mars. You're trying to save the planet. Those are beautiful dreams. But dreams without love are just empty wishes. Elon looked down at the watch. The hands had stopped moving. But somehow it still felt alive. I don't know how to love someone, he whispered. I don't know how to let someone love me. She stood up slowly and walked toward the door. Come on, there's one more thing I need to show you. One more secret that will help you understand why tonight happened. What do you mean?
Dot smiled mysteriously.
I mean, this meeting wasn't as accidental as you think. Mijo, I've been waiting to meet you for a very long time. As they walked back toward the living room, Elon clutched Carlos's watch in his hand. He felt like he was holding 78 years of love and wisdom and hope. What secret was she still hiding? Dot led Elon back to the living room where all the family photos covered the walls. But this time she walked to a different section. A corner where older photos hung in simple frames. Sit down, Mijo, she said, pointing to the couch. What I'm about to show you is going to surprise you. Elon sat down, still holding Carlos's pocket watch. His mind was spinning with everything he had learned tonight, but he could tell Dot had saved the biggest surprise for last. She walked to a small bookshelf and pulled out a thick photo album. The cover was faded blue leather, worn smooth from years of handling. This album has pictures from my working days, she said, sitting beside him. From when I worked at Kelly Air Force Base during the 1940s and early 1950s. She opened the album carefully. The first page showed black and white photos of young women in work clothes. They were standing in front of big airplane hangars. Some were holding tools. Others were sewing parachutes. That's me, Dot said, pointing to a young woman with dark hair and a bright smile. I was 25 years old. I thought I knew everything about life. Elon studied the photo. Even in black and white, he could see the same kind eyes and warm smile that Dot had today. We made parachutes and flight suits for the pilots, Dot continued, turning the page. It was important work. We knew the things we made might save someone's life. The next page had more photos of women working. Some were at sewing machines. Others were testing parachutes. All of them looked proud and happy to be doing their part. I made friends with girls from all over the world, Dot said. Some were from Mexico like me. Others came from Canada and Europe. We all worked together like sisters. She turned to another page. This one had a group photo of about 20 women standing together outside a building. They all wore matching work uniforms and were smiling at the camera. This was taken in 1952, Dot said, right before some of the girls left to get married or move away. Elon looked at the faces in the photo. They were all so young and full of hope. Then his eyes stopped on one face in particular, a tall young woman with blonde hair and sharp, intelligent eyes. She looked familiar somehow, but he couldn't place where he might have seen her before. "Who's that?" he asked, pointing to the blonde woman. Dot smiled mysteriously. "That's my friend May Haldeman. She was from Canada, but she came to work at the base for about 6 months." Elon's heart stopped. May Haldeman? Such a smart girl. She spoke 3 languages and knew all about nutrition and health. She wanted to be a model someday, but she also talked about having adventures all over the world. Elon stared at the photo. His mother's maiden name was Haldeman. His mother had lived in Canada before moving to South Africa. His mother had talked about working different jobs when she was young. "Dot," he said slowly. "What was May's full name?" "May Haldeman. But I think she got married later and changed her last name too. Let me think. Musk?" "Yes, that's right, Musk." The room started spinning. Elon felt like he couldn't breathe. "Are you telling me," he said carefully, "that you worked with my mother?" Dot's smile grew bigger. "I wondered when you would figure it out." "Yes, Misho. May Musk was my dear friend over 70 years ago." Elon stared at his mother's young face in the photo. She looked so different, carefree and adventurous. Nothing like the careful, worried mother he knew today. "But how did you know I was her son?" "Miguel told me your last name when you first came to the factory. Musk isn't a common name, and you look just like her. The same eyes, the same determined expression." Dot turned to the next page in the album. There were more photos of her and May working together. In one picture, they were eating lunch outside. In another, they were laughing at something off camera. "Your mother and I became very close during those 6 months, Dot said. "We would eat lunch together every day. She would tell me about her dreams of traveling the world and having a family someday." "What kind of dreams?" "She said she wanted to have children who would do important things. Children who would help make the world better." Dot looked at Elon directly. She said she hoped her children would reach for the stars but never forget the people who loved them. Elon felt tears starting again. She really said that many times. But she was also scared. Scared of what? Scared that if she followed her dreams of adventure, she might never find love. Scared that if she had children, she might not be a good enough mother. Scared that she would have to choose between having a big life and having a loving family. Dot closed the album and held it in her lap. "That's when I gave her the same advice I'm giving you tonight." "What advice?" "That love and dreams don't have to be enemies. The right person will love you because of your dreams, not despite them, and your dreams will be stronger, not weaker, when you have someone to share them with." Elon was quiet for a long moment, processing everything. "So when Miguel told you my name, you knew exactly who I was." "I knew you were May's boy. The one she talked about wanting to have someday. The one she hoped would change the world. And you asked Miguel to call you the next time I came to the factory." "I did." "Why?" Dot stood up and walked to the mantel above the fireplace. She picked up a small wooden box and brought it back to the couch. "Because your mother left something with me before she moved away. Something she said I should keep until I met her children someday." She opened the box carefully. Inside was a letter in a sealed envelope. The paper was yellowed with age, and the ink was faded but still readable. On the front, in careful handwriting, it said, "For my children, if I'm lucky enough and I'll have them someday." Elon's hands were shaking as he took the letter. She wrote this 70 years ago, the night before she left San Antonio. She was scared about her future. Scared about the decisions she was making. She asked me to keep this letter in case she ever needed to remember what she believed when she was young and hopeful. Elon looked at the envelope. His mother's handwriting from decades before he was even born. She said if she ever had children, and if they ever needed guidance about love and dreams and following their hearts, I should give them this letter. How did you know I needed guidance? Dot smiled gently. Miguel told me about the young engineer at the factory. The one who asked questions about you. The one who seemed to care about whether you were happy or just successful. Elon's heart jumped. What young engineer? Her name is Sophia Chen. 28 years old. She graduated from MIT with a degree in electrical engineering. She works on your battery technology team.
I don't know anyone named Sophia Chen.
Dot reached over and patted Elon's hand. Miguel says Sophia mentioned that she wishes someone could help the boss see that caring about humanity and caring for individual humans don't have to be different things. Elon felt something click in his chest. She said that? When Miguel told me, I knew it was time. Time to meet May's son. Time to share what Carlos and I learned about love. Time to help you understand that the right person won't compete with your mission to save the world. They'll help you succeed at it. Elon stared at his mother's letter. 70 years old. But somehow it felt like it was written just for this moment. There's something else, Dot said quietly. Something that will complete the circle of why we met tonight. Elon looked at the paper, then at his mother's letter, then at Carlos's watch, still clutched in his other hand. You orchestrated all of this, he said, with wonder. The meeting at the factory. Tonight. Everything. I helped it along, Dot said with a smile. But love has its own timing, Micho. It finds a way when people are ready. She stood up and walked toward the front door. Now I think it's time for you to go home and read your mother's letter. And maybe make a phone call to a young woman who cares about clean energy and the person who's trying to save the world. Elon hugged her back, careful not to crush her small frame. Thank you for everything. For the stories. For the wisdom. He gestured helplessly. For all of it. Remember, Dot said as he walked toward his car, sometimes the hardest problems need the oldest solutions, and sometimes the oldest solution is simply this: show up for love, and let love show up for you. As Elon drove away, he looked in his rearview mirror and saw Dot standing in her doorway, waving goodbye. In his pocket, he had his mother's 70-year-old letter. In his other pocket, he had Sophia Chen's phone number. And in his heart, for the first time in years, he had hope that maybe he could learn to love and be loved. But first, he had a letter to read and a phone call to make. He wanted to read the letter right away, but something told him to wait. This wasn't something to rush through in a parking lot or gas station. This needed to be somewhere special. As he drove north toward Austin, Elon thought about everything Dot had told him. About small moments and daily choices. About loving someone through their struggles. About grief being love with nowhere to go. About dreams and love not being enemies. His phone buzzed with text messages. Probably his assistant wondering where he was. Probably board members wanting answers announced tomorrow's meetings. Probably 100 people who needed something from him. For the first time in years, Elon didn't care. He was driving toward something more important than meetings or money or even Mars. He was driving toward the possibility of love. 2 hours later, he pulled into his driveway in Austin. His house was dark and empty, just like always. But tonight it felt different. Tonight it felt like the beginning of something instead of just another place to sleep between workdays. Elon went inside and walked to his study. It was a big room with tall windows and shelves full of books about rockets and space and the future. On his desk were plans for new Tesla designs and SpaceX missions. Important work. World-changing work. But tonight, none of it seemed as important as a letter written by a young woman who dreamed of having killed her who would reach for the stars. Elon sat down at his desk and turned on the lamp. He placed the letter in front of him and stared at it for a long moment. The envelope was fragile and yellowed with age. His mother's handwriting looked so young and hopeful. For my children, if I'm lucky enough to have them someday. His hands were shaking as he carefully opened the envelope. Inside was a single sheet of paper, covered in his mother's neat handwriting. He unfolded it slowly, afraid it might fall apart. Elon took a deep breath and began to read. To my future children, I am writing this letter on my last night in Texas. Tomorrow I leave for Canada, and then who knows where. The world feels so big and full of possibilities, but also scary and uncertain. I have been working at Kelly Air Force Base for 6 months, making parachutes for pilots. It is important work, but it has taught me something even more important. The things we create with love are the things that save lives. I have big dreams. I want to see the world. I want to have adventures. I want to do things that matter. But I also want to have a family someday. I want to have children who will be braver and smarter and kinder than I am. My friend Dot Martinez told me something today that I want to remember forever. And I want you to remember it too. Love and dreams don't have to fight each other. The right person will love you because of your dreams, not despite them. If you are reading this letter, it means I was lucky enough to become your mother. It means my dreams of having children came true. I hope that by the time you read this, I have shown you that you can reach for the stars and still keep your feet on the ground. I hope I have taught you that changing the world starts with loving the people in it. I don't know what your dreams will be. Maybe you will be doctors or teachers or artists. Maybe you will build things or discover things or create things that haven't been invented yet. Whatever you do, I hope you do it with love. But I also hope you remember this. The biggest adventure isn't climbing the highest mountain or traveling to the farthest places. The biggest adventure is letting someone love you completely and learning to love them the same way back. I am scared that I might have to choose between having big dreams and having love. But Dot says that fear is wrong. She says the best lives have both. She says when you find the right person, they don't make your dreams smaller. They help you dream bigger. So if you are reading this and feeling scared about love, remember what your young mother learned in San Antonio. Love isn't something that competes with your purpose in life. Love is what gives your purpose meaning. Don't be afraid to show someone your heart, even if it might break. Don't be afraid to need someone, even if it makes you feel vulnerable. Don't be afraid to let someone take care of you, even if you are used to taking care of everyone else. And remember this most of all, time spent loving someone is never time wasted. It is the most important work you will ever do. I hope when you read this, you are surrounded by people who love you. I hope you have found your person, the one who makes you laugh and holds you when you cry and believes in your dreams as much as you do. If you haven't found them yet, don't give up. Love has its own timing. It finds you when you're ready, often when you least expect it. Be brave, my future children. Reach for the stars, change the world, but never forget that the reason the stars are worth reaching for is because of the people you love here on Earth. All my love from the past to your future. Your mother, hopefully. May Haldeman. P.S. If you ever meet an old woman named Dorothy Martinez who lives in San Antonio and grows the most beautiful tomatoes you've ever seen, tell her thank you from me. Tell her the advice she gave a scared young woman in 1952 changed everything. Elon finished reading and sat back in his chair. Tears were streaming down his face. His mother had written this letter before she even met his father. Before she knew what kind of children she would have. Before she could imagine that one of those children would actually try to reach Mars. But somehow she had known exactly what he would need to hear. He picked up Carlos's pocket watch from his desk. The hands had stopped at 11:47, but in the lamplight he could see an inscription on the back. Time spent loving is time well spent. CM. Carlos Martinez. Even his initials were carved into the watch. Elon looked at the third item on his desk, Sophia Chen's phone number. It was past midnight now. Too late to call anyone normal. But something about tonight didn't feel normal. Tonight felt like the kind of night when normal rules didn't apply. He picked up his phone and dialed the number before he could lose his nerve. It rang once, twice, 3 times. Maybe she was asleep. Maybe this was a mistake. Maybe… Hello? A woman's voice. Soft and curious. She didn't sound like she had been sleeping. Hi, Elon said, suddenly nervous. Is this Sophia Chen? Yes. Who is this? This is Elon Musk. I work at… I know who you are, Sophia said, and he could hear surprise in her voice. Is everything okay? It's pretty late. I know, I'm sorry, I met someone tonight who told me about you. About how you care about clean energy and other things. There was a pause. Miguel's grandmother? You know about Doc? Miguel mentioned she wanted to meet you. He said she had some kind of message for you. Sophia's voice got gentler. Are you okay? You sound… different? Yeah, different. Elon looked at his mother's letter still spread out on his desk. Sophia, can I ask you something? Why do you stay late at the factory? Why do you care so much about making the batteries better? Another pause. Then, because I think what you're doing matters. I think electric cars could really help save the planet. And I think, she hesitated. I think someone who cares that much about the future of humanity deserves to have technology that works perfectly. Elon felt something warm spread through his chest. That's the most beautiful thing anyone has ever said about my work. Really? Really? Sophia, I know this is crazy, but would you maybe want to have coffee sometime? I'd like to hear more about your ideas for the batteries. And maybe I'd like to get to know the person who thinks about humanity and technology the way you do. Are you asking me on a date, Mr. Musk? Elon smiled for the first time all day. I think I am. And please, call me Elon. As they made plans to meet the next evening, Elon looked around his empty study. Tomorrow night, for the first time in years, he wouldn't be working late or eating dinner alone. Tomorrow night, he would be having coffee with someone who loved his mission to change the world. Just like Dot had promised. Just like his mother had hoped. 70 years ago. There's something else about love and loss I need to tell you, he whispered to himself, remembering Dot's words. But first, are you hungry? Let me make you dinner like I did for my Carlos. He was ready to learn what love really meant. The next evening, Elon found himself doing something he hadn't done in years, getting nervous about a date. He changed his shirt 3 times. He practiced conversations in the mirror. He even asked his assistant to clear his entire evening, something that shocked her so much she asked if he was feeling sick. He wasn't sick. For the first time in months, he felt completely healthy. The coffee shop Sophia had chosen was small and quiet, tucked between a bookstore and a flower shop in downtown Austin. When Elon walked in, he spotted her immediately. She was sitting at a corner table with her laptop open, working on something that made her face scrunch up in concentration. Sophia, he said, walking over to her table. She looked up and smiled. It was a real smile, not the careful smiles most people gave him when they recognized who he was. Hi, Elon. You're right on time. She closed her laptop and gestured to the chair across from her. I already ordered you a coffee. Black. No sugar. Miguel told me that's how you drink it at the factory. Thank you. Elon sat down, feeling more nervous than he had before any business meeting or rocket launch. What were you working on? Battery efficiency calculations. I think I found a way to increase energy density by 12%. Her eyes lit up as she talked. It would mean longer range for the cars and faster charging times. Most people's eyes glazed over when Elon talked about technical stuff. But Sophia's eyes sparkled like she was talking about treasure. 12%? Elon leaned forward. That's huge. How? For the next hour, they talked about batteries and electric motors and sustainable energy. Sophia had ideas that were brilliant and creative. She understood not just how the technology worked, but why it mattered. The thing is, Sophia said, stirring her second cup of coffee, I don't think most people realize we're in a race against time. Climate change, fossil fuels running out, air pollution in cities. We have maybe 20 years to completely change how the world gets energy. That's exactly why I started Tesla, Elon said. But most people think I'm crazy for pushing so hard. You're not crazy. You're just thinking about the future while everyone else is thinking about next week. Sophia looked at him directly. That's what I admire about you. You admire me? Sophia blushed slightly. Miguel talks about you a lot. He says you care more about the mission than about being comfortable. He says you work 18-hour days because you're trying to save the planet, not because you're trying to get rich. Miguel talks too much, Elon said, but he was smiling. He also says you seem lonely sometimes. Like you're carrying the weight of the world by yourself. The comment hit Elon like a gentle punch to the chest. I guess I am pretty isolated. Why? It was such a simple question. But Elon had never really thought about the answer. I don't know. I guess I always figured my work was too important to get distracted by normal life. What's normal life? You know, relationships, family dinners, watching movies, taking vacations. Elon shrugged. Stuff that doesn't help get us to Mars. Sophia was quiet for a moment, studying his face. Can I tell you something? Sure. I think you have it backwards. What do you mean? I mean, what's the point of saving humanity if you don't get to be part of it? What's the point of reaching Mars if you go there alone? The words reminded Elon of what Dot had asked him in her garden. When you get to Mars, will you go alone? I never thought of it that way, he said quietly. My parents came to America from China when I was 5, Sophia said. They worked incredibly hard so I could go to good schools and have opportunities. But you know what I remember most about my childhood?
What?
Every Sunday, no matter how much work my dad had, we would make dumplings together. All afternoon, just talking and laughing and making food. My dad said the dumplings always tasted better when we made them as a family. Sophia smiled at the memory. He said the work we do is important, but the people we do it with are what make it meaningful. Elon felt something shift inside his chest. Your dad sounds wise. He is. He also says that the best engineers aren't the ones who can build the most complicated machines. They're the ones who can build machines that help people connect with each other. Is that why you became an engineer? Partly. But also because I believe in what you're doing. I believe electric cars can help save the planet. I believe space exploration can help humanity survive and grow. Sophia leaned forward. I just think those things would be even more amazing if you had people to share them with. Elon looked at this young woman who understood both his technology and his heart, who thought his mission was important but also thought he deserved love, who looked at him like he was a person, not just a famous name. Sophia, he said carefully, what would you say if I told you I don't really know how to be in a relationship? That I've never learned how to balance work and love? I'd say that's okay. Most important things have to be learned. She smiled. I'd also say that maybe the right relationship doesn't feel like work and love are competing. Maybe it feels like they're helping each other. How? Well, when I'm working on a really hard problem, sometimes I call my best friend and talk it through with her. She doesn't know anything about engineering, but asking her questions helps me think differently. Having someone who cares about me makes me more creative, not less. Elon thought about all his past relationships. How he had always felt like he had to choose between his work and his girlfriend. How he had never found anyone who made his dreams feel bigger instead of smaller. Can I ask you something personal, he said. Sure. Why are you here? Really, why did you say yes to having coffee with me? Sophia was quiet for a moment. Then she said, because Miguel's grandmother asked me to. What? A few weeks ago, Miguel mentioned that his grandmother was visiting. She came to the factory one day and asked Miguel to introduce her to some of the engineers. When she met me, she asked about my work and why I cared about clean energy. Sophia smiled. She's a very good listener. Before I knew it, I was telling her about growing up in California where the air was so polluted I couldn't play outside some days. About wanting to help build a world where kids don't have to worry about that. What did she say? She said I reminded her of someone she used to know. Someone who cared about big dreams and small people at the same time. Then she asked if I'd ever noticed that you seemed to carry a lot of weight by yourself. Elon shook his head in amazement. She really planned all of this. I think she sees things other people don't see. When Miguel told her you had asked about me, she smiled like she had been waiting for it to happen. Sophia reached across the table and touched Elon's hand gently. She also told me something I'd been thinking about ever since. She said the loneliest people are usually the ones doing the most important work. She said sometimes they need someone to remind them that saving the world is a team sport. Elon looked down at Sophia's hand, covering his. It was small and warm and felt like home. I've been doing this alone for so long, he said quietly. I don't know if I remember how to be part of a team. That's okay. We can figure it out together. As they walked out of the coffee shop into the warm Texas evening, Elon felt something he hadn't felt in years. He felt like he was exactly where he was supposed to be, with exactly the right person, at exactly the right time. Sophia, he said as they reached her car, would you like to have dinner tomorrow? Somewhere we can talk more about batteries and dumplings and saving the world together? I'd love that, she said. But I have one condition. What's that? We have to go visit Dot Martinez first. I want to thank her for this. And I think she'd like to meet the person who's going to help you learn what love really means. Elon smiled and nodded. He couldn't wait to see the look on Dot's face when he showed up with Sophia. He couldn't wait to tell her that her plan had worked. Most of all, he couldn't wait to start learning how to love and be loved by someone who understood that changing the world was better when you didn't have to do it alone. 3 days later, Elon drove back to San Antonio, with Sophia beside him, in the passenger seat. This time, the drive felt completely different. Instead of racing thoughts about problems and deadlines, his mind was calm and focused. Instead of driving alone through empty highway miles, he had someone to talk to about everything and nothing. "Tell me more about Dot," Sophia said, as they passed the familiar Texas towns. "Miguel says she's like a grandmother to everyone at the factory." "She's the wisest person I've ever met," Elon said. "She taught me more about life in one evening than I learned in all my years of school." "What did she teach you?" "She taught me that love isn't something that takes time away from important work. Love is what makes the work important." He looked over at Sophia. "She taught me that the right person doesn't make your dreams smaller. They help you dream bigger." Sophia smiled. "She sounds like she knows what she's talking about." "She does. She was married for 78 years to a man who understood that loving someone means supporting their mission, not competing with it." As they pulled into Dot's driveway, Elon felt nervous again. What if she didn't like Sophia? What if bringing her here was moving too fast? "Relax," Sophia said, seeming to read his thoughts. "She's going to love this." The front door opened before they even got out of the car. Dot Martinez stood in the doorway, wearing the same simple blue dress and wire glasses. But today her smile was even brighter than usual. "Well, well," she called out as they walked up the front path. "Look what the wind blew back to San Antonio." "Hello, Mrs. Martinez," Elon said, giving her a gentle hug. "I brought someone I'd like you to meet." "Oh, I know exactly who this is," Dot said, turning to Sophia with sparkling eyes. "You must be the young lady who works on batteries and cares about clean air for children." Sophia looked surprised. "Miguel told you about me?" "Miguel tells me everything. But I could have guessed who you were just by looking at this man's face." "Ease." Dot gestured toward Elon. "He looks different than he did a few days ago. Lighter. Happy." "I feel different," Elon admitted. "Good, come both of you. I was just making lunch in the garden. Perfect timing." "Sophia, dear, would you help me pick some tomatoes for our salad?" Dot asked. "I want to talk to this young lady properly." As Sophia knelt beside Dot among the tomato plants, Elon sat in one of the chairs under the shade tree. He watched the two women work together, talking quietly as they filled a basket with vegetables. "I just think the world needs both kinds of work," Sophia replied. "The big work and the close work. The Mars missions and the morning coffee. The rocket ships and the relationships." Dot nodded approvingly. "Wise girl. Where did you learn that?" "From my parents. They taught me that the most important inventions are the ones that help people connect with each other better." Sophia looked over at Elon with soft eyes. "I think what he's doing is the most important work happening on this planet right now. I think someone who cares that much about the future of humanity deserves to have people who care about him." Dot stopped picking tomatoes and studied Sophia's face carefully. "And you want to be one of those people? If he'll let me." "Oh, honey," Dot said with a laugh. "Look at him. He's already let you." Elon felt his cheeks get warm. It was true. In just 3 days, Sophia had become the first person he wanted to talk to in the morning and the last person he wanted to talk to before bed. She made his work feel more exciting and his life feel more balanced. They brought the vegetables inside and prepared lunch together. Sophia helped Dot make a salad while Elon set the table. It felt natural and easy, like they had been doing this for years instead of hours. So Dot said as they sat down to eat, "Tell me about your first date. Was it everything an old matchmaker could hope for?" "I helped things along," Dot said with mock innocence. "Love needs a little guidance sometimes." "It was perfect," Sophia said, taking Elon's hand across the table. "We talked about batteries and space travel and how to save the world together." "And," Dot prompted. "And," Elon continued, "I realized that maybe I've been doing this backward all my life. Maybe the point of reaching for the stars isn't to get away from Earth. Maybe it's to make Earth worth coming home to." Dot clapped her hands together like a delighted child. "Now you're getting it, Mijo." After lunch, they sat in the garden again. Sophia was asking Dot about her flower growing techniques. Elon was just listening. amazed by how easily the two women had connected. "Mrs. Martinez," Sophia said suddenly, "can I ask you something?" "Of course, dear." "How did you know? How did you know Elon and I would fit together?" Dot smiled mysteriously. "Because you both care about the same big thing, but you care about it for the same small reasons." "What do you mean?" "You both want to help save the planet. That's the big thing. But you both want to save it because you remember being children who couldn't breathe clean air or see clear skies. That's the small thing. The personal thing." Dot looked at both of them. People who love the same big things for the same small reasons. They understand each other. They support each other. They make each other stronger. "Is that what you and Carlos had?" Elon asked. Sophia squeezed Elon's hand. "So we're both trying to build a cleaner world because we remember what a dirty one felt like." "Precisely, and that shared memory, that shared hope. That's what will keep you together when things get difficult." As the afternoon turned to evening, Dot brought out an old photo album. Not the one with pictures of May, but a different one filled with family celebrations and holidays. "This is what 78 years of love looks like," she said, turning the pages slowly. "Birthdays and graduations and anniversaries. But also Tuesday dinners and Sunday morning coffee and holding hands during scary movies." She pointed to a picture of her and Carlos dancing at their 50th anniversary party. Both of them had gray hair and wrinkled faces, but they were looking at each other like teenagers. "You know what Carlos said to me that night?" Dot asked. "What?" Sophia and Elon said together. "He said, Dot, I'm glad we figured out how to love each other's dreams. It made our own dreams come true." As the sun began to set, Elon and Sophia knew it was time to leave. But first, Dot had one more surprise. "Wait here," she said, disappearing into the house. She came back carrying a small wrapped package. "What's this?" Elon asked. "A wedding gift. For someday. When you're ready." "Dot, we've only been on one date." "Hush," she said firmly. "Some things you just know." "Open it." Inside the package was a small wooden box, similar to the one that held Carlos's letters. Carved into the lid were two names, Elon and Sophia, and a date 6 months in the future. "It's for your letters to each other," Dot explained. "Every couple needs a place to keep their written down love." Sophia started crying. "This is the most beautiful thing anyone has ever given me." "Don't cry yet, dear. Save those tears for your wedding day." Dot hugged them both. "Now go. Drive back to Austin. Plan your next date. Start building your life together." As they walked to the car, Dot called out one more piece of advice. "Remember, Miles, love is like a garden. You can't plant it once and forget about it. You have to tend it every day. Water it with kindness. Feed it with attention. Protect it from weeds like pride and selfishness." "We will," Elon promised. "And Elon?" "Yes?" On the drive back to Austin, Elon and Sophia talked about everything. Their childhoods and their dreams. Their fears about the future and their hopes for what they could build together. "I have a confession," Sophia said as they neared the city. "What?" "I've had a crush on you for 6 months. Not because you're famous or rich, because I watched you at the factory one day, talking to the assembly line workers like they were the most important people in the world. I thought, that's a person who understands that big dreams are really about caring for small things." Elon pulled the car over at a scenic overlook outside Austin. The city lights sparkled below them like earthbound stars. "I have a confession too," he said. "What?" 3 days ago, I thought I was too broken to love anyone. I thought my mission was too big to share with another person. Now I think maybe the mission was always meant to be shared. Maybe everything I've been trying to build was really just me getting ready to build something with you." They kissed for the first time under the Texas stars, and Elon finally understood what Dot had been trying to him. Love wasn't something that took time away from changing the world. Love was what made changing the world worth doing. 6 months later, in Dot's backyard garden, surrounded by tomato plants and marigolds, Elon Musk married Sophia Chen. Dot Martinez, now 100 years old, officiated the ceremony. In her wedding speech, Dot said, "Sometimes the hardest problems need the oldest solutions. And sometimes the oldest solution is simply this: find someone who loves your mission as much as they love your heart." As Elon and Sophia danced their first dance as husband and wife, Dot sat in her garden chair watching with satisfaction. Above them, the stars shone bright. The same stars Elon still planned to reach. But now he knew the most important part. He wouldn't be making the journey alone. In his pocket, he carried Carlos's watch, still stopped at 11:47. But Alan had learned that the best moments aren't measured by moving hands on a clock. The best moments are measured by the love you share while time stands still. The wisdom of a 99-year-old widow had taught him the most important lesson of his life. The universe is vast and full of wonders. But the greatest wonder of all is finding someone to explore it with. And as Dot Martinez watched the couple she had brought together dance under the stars, she whispered a prayer of gratitude to her Carlos, wherever he was. "We did it, mi amor," she said softly. "We helped another love story begin." The garden was quiet except for the sound of laughter and music, and two hearts learning to beat in rhythm together. Sometimes the hardest problems really do need the oldest solutions, and sometimes love is exactly what it seems to be. The answer to every question that matters. We'd love to know, where are you listening from today? Drop a comment and let us know your city or country. If this story touched your heart or taught you something new about love and relationships, please give this video a thumb up. It really helps us reach more people who might need to hear these lessons about balancing dreams with love. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell so you never miss our inspiring stories. We share tales like this one every week. Stories that remind us what's truly important in life. And here's the most important part. Please share this video with your friends and family. Share it with someone who works too hard and forgets to love. Share it with someone who thinks their dreams are too big for relationships. Share it with someone who needs to remember that changing the world is better when you don't do it alone. Together, we can spread kindness and awareness, one story at a time. Thank you for listening, and remember, sometimes the hardest problems really do need the oldest solutions.